From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
The U.S. Education Secretary touts her $5 billion plan to fund tuition for private school students.
I like to think of, the kids going to school with their backpacks and basically representing the funding for their education, traveling with them wherever it is that they and their families decide is best for them.
Plus, Arizona lawmakers getting heated over climate change.
We thought that the NGS and Peabody will continue to operate beyond 2019.
And powering a nation, why the Navajo Nation is turning to solar in hopes of a brighter future.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Matthew Roy.
And I'm Mackenzie Pavicic. Thank you for joining us.
Our big story tonight, Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos is using Arizona as an example for a nationwide push in education reform.
Earlier this morning, Cronkite News reporter Isabella Holsizer attended a roundtable hosted by DeVos and Governor Doug Ducey.
With 18 students, family members, and education leaders from Arizona in attendance, DeVos spoke about her proposed plan to put school choice into the hands of families. Introduces a bill in Congress, the motion aims to make tax credit funding available to states to put toward scholarships for students. Arizona already has programs like this in place. The Empowerment Scholarship Account Program gives families the opportunity to attend schools that wouldn't usually be attainable.
Because of the way this is designed, individuals and corporations would make the voluntary contributions into this tax credit pool, and then depending on the number of states that participate, those monies would be granted back out to the states to define how to use those funds for the best of the students they're serving. And every state has different requirements, every state has different opportunities, and so states are best equipped to really work closely with their communities and with their families to define how to best meet those needs.
Joe Thomas, the president of Arizona Education Association and a Valley High School teacher, said if we focused on the word quality and we made sure that every kid in every zip code in every part of the state had a quality public school that they could go to, then we don't need any of these other systems. You hear a lot about choice, but if there are two bad choices, that's not good for anybody. The bill has been introduced, but is not passed in the House or the Senate. It has 83 co-sponsors, including Arizona Representatives Debbie Lesko, Paul Gosar, and Andy Biggs. Live in studio, I'm Isabella Holsizer, Cronkite News.
Also happening this morning, Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi officially announces the House will move forward with articles of impeachment. The announcement comes after the House Intelligence Committee released a 300-page report detailing its findings over weeks of testimony from diplomats, aides regarding the president's alleged misconduct, obstruction of Congress, and obstruction of justice.
Sadly, but with confidence and humility, with allegiance to our founders and a heart full of love for America, today I am asking our chairman to proceed with articles of impeachment. I commend our committee chairs and our members for their somber approach to actions which I wish the president had not made necessary.
Despite the announcement, Democratic leadership is staying quiet for now and working to ensure they'll have the votes needed to approve the articles of impeachment and send the matter over to the Senate for trial. A vote to impeach the president could take place by Christmas.
Impeachment may be sucking up all of the oxygen in Washington, but a group of lawmakers had their eyes on real oxygen this week when they met with leaders of other nations to talk about climate change. Heather Cumberledge has more from our D.C. bureau.
200 nations are meeting at the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change this week. 70 of those countries have already committed to net zero carbon emissions by 2050. The United States, however, is not one of them. But House Speaker Nancy Pelosi had a message for those at the so-called COP25 meeting.
By coming here, we want to say to everyone, we're still in. The United States is still in.
still in the fight against climate change. Even though the U.S. is no longer in the Paris Climate Accords, a 2015 agreement between almost 200 countries to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and slow global warming. President Donald Trump pulled the U.S. out of the deal in 2017, which is why Pelosi led a delegation of Congress members to the 2019 United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change in Madrid earlier this week. Arizona Representative Raul Grijalva was on the trip and said the world needs to act quickly and the U.S. needs to do its part.
Vulnerability is a reality, as is the urgency to do something immediately about climate change and quit wasting time. Legislatively, Natural Resources Committee will be moving forward.
But Arizona Representative Paul Gosar says the U.S. is already the global leader in emission reductions, even without being a part of the Paris deal. Gosar, the chairman of the Western Caucus, said in a statement today that the Trump administration has unleashed a renaissance of American energy, created thousands of new jobs, and provided consumers with affordable and reliable energy, all while reducing our carbon emissions. He went on to say that Democrats like Grijalva should embrace America's energy revolution instead of kowtowing to climate extremists at an international conference. Grijalva disagreed. The chairman of the House Natural Resources Committee said in a statement today that most Americans remain committed to the Paris Climate Agreement and to increase global cooperation on the climate crisis. The climate change conference is scheduled to run through next Friday, but the U.S. lawmakers are already back home where Grijalva and Pelosi are scheduled to give a briefing tomorrow morning about the Madrid trip. In Washington for Cronkite News, I'm Heather Cumberledge.
Planned Parenthood announced a new ad campaign targeting 3 Republican lawmakers, including Arizona Senator Martha McSally. The campaign, which will cost over $1 million, will include television, radio, digital, and mail ads. They will address lawmakers' support of the Trump administration's policies that strip the group of Title X funding and restrict how doctors at Planned Parenthood discuss abortions with patients.
The Navajo Nation is in the midst of a transition between coal and renewable energy. This comes after Arizona's only coal mine closed down earlier this year, and the largest coal-fired power plant in the West shut down last month. Cronkite News reporter Jordan Elder is now with us. Jordan, you've been reporting on this story for a while now. What does this mean for the Navajo Nation?
Well, the Salt River Project actually announced it would closed that power plant 2 years ago, and that set off a domino effect on the Navajo Nation. With hundreds of jobs lost between the mine and the power plant, solar is actually stepping in to fill some of those gaps.
Louise Hudgens lives past where the power lines end.
Look at this, is power lines all the way down there. Nobody living here.
Living in paradise comes with a cost. Hudgens doesn't have running water, but she does have access to something that 15,000 Navajo Nation families are still waiting for: electricity.
Great to have it. Instead of going down and get the kerosene and all that for the light, all I do is switch, and so the light comes on.
And with that one switch, Hudgens takes a step toward the future of this nation. This solar panel outside her home keeps her lights on, and occasionally her coffee maker.
Mainly, that's it.
But Hudgens, like other Navajo residents, still has one foot in the past. She uses wood and coal to heat her home in the winter.
Oh, yeah.
But coal production has halted, forcing residents like Hudgens to stockpile their coal.
I had this one, I still have a bunch in there.
These tracks hauled their last trainload of coal from the Kayenta mine to the Navajo generating station in August. And this November, the 3 iconic smokestacks of the power plant went dark.
It simply became an issue where it's going to cost more to keep the plant open than to shut it down. And it has been a workhorse for the state of Arizona for nearly 50 years, providing energy to millions of people in the Southwest.
About 1,000 Navajo people lost very good, high-paying jobs as a result of those closures.
In preparation for the closure, the Salt River Project opened a redeployment center in Page.
All of our 433 employees received an offer for another job within SRP. Those jobs, though, however, are not located on the reservation.
Relocation is difficult in a culture where roots run deep and families often stay on the same land for generations.
We call it Mud and Curb. We started selling here when I was back in high school, and we did it to raise funds for my sister's basketball program.
Tomai Bitsoy's father and sister were transferred to jobs in Phoenix because of the closure. Now, his family's mutton and fry bread are a source of livelihood for the divided family.
They thought they would have another maybe 15 to 10 years until it closed.
The Navajo Tribal Utility Authority, or NTUA, works to make water and electricity accessible to residents. They want to create more opportunities for employment and resources close to home.
Navajo Generating Station used Navajo Nation coal to create electricity. The Navajo people never got any electricity out of our Navajo Generating Station.
Now, NTUA has established the largest tribally owned renewable power plant in the country.
These are real projects that are in place that help the environment from the beginning, and that's part of the culture of the Navajo people. They want to be one with Mother Earth.
Solar energy helps people like Hudgens live a little easier, but the NTUA knows that this source of power can only go so far.
The solar industry cannot make up what was lost from the closure of Navajo Generating Station. It's not the same type of a facility. It can't make up the jobs. It can't make up the revenue. It can only incrementally help ease the problem as you go forward.
With the help of solar, Hudgens stays connected to power and connected to her family's roots.
My grandpa used to hold this land. And then next was my grandma, my aunt. Then she passed on. Then it's my turn now. We had to stay on our land, hold on to it.
Through the closures and the changes, President Nez says the future is bright for the Navajo Nation, and not just because of electricity.
And we're a resilient people. We almost got, taken off our lands 150 plus years ago. But we're resilient, we keep fighting, and we're never giving up.
NTUA solar panels helped connect 200 families to power in just 6 weeks. They're already in the planning stages to do this again. And as for the generating station, the bulk of the decommissioning is expected to take 3 to 5 years. But SRP and contractors will monitor the plant for the next 3 decades, especially the groundwater, because there were a lot of chemicals used around the plant and a landfill nearby. 90% of the materials used are expected to be recycled. Live in the studio, Jordan Elder, Cronkite News.
Native Americans are typically underrepresented in the medical field.
When we come back, the historic moves being made across the country to change just that.
And we are in the first week of December, but is it going to continue with some rain, or are we going to see some sunshine? I'll have the answer for you up next.
Stay in the know on the go. At Cronkite News, we work hard to report the facts and keep you updated, whether we're on set or on the scene.
Taking it from the studio to the field. So I'm here in South Phoenix.
In Phoenix, we're just a click away. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, or find us online at cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
There's a push here in Arizona and nationally to encourage more minorities to pursue medical careers to help address health disparities.
The number of Native Americans in medical schools and serving as doctors in the U.S. is especially low.
Cronkite News reporter Tyon Marshburn traveled to Oklahoma to examine one initiative that has had success. Tyon.
As two-lane highways transition to gravel and dirt, Piper Long's farm in Skiatook, Oklahoma looms in the distance.
We're in the middle of pecan harvest here in Oklahoma, and this tractor here is set up to shake the trees to help the pecans fall down to the ground so that we can pick them with our other tractors that have pickers hooked on.
Long isn't just a farmer, she's a mother of 3 and a medical student at the unusual age of 40. As an enrolled member of the Osage tribe, Long is one of the small number of Native Americans pursuing a career in medicine.
Growing up, I didn't have anyone in my family or anyone that I knew in my community who was in healthcare.
Oklahoma, home of the country's largest Native American population, is embarking on a partnership to address that disparity. Coming soon, a medical school on Indian land, the first in the United States.
Having a medical school on tribal property is unique, and I feel like it's going to improve healthcare in these rural communities and for our Native population.
Native Americans make up 2% of the U.S. population, but a mere 0.7% are enrolled in medical school. In terms of those who go on to be doctors, Alaska Natives and American Indians represented less than 1% of physicians in 2016. That's about 4,000 doctors of more than 700,000 people.
It's exceptionally important from a health disparities point of view, all right, to encourage individuals from rural and underserved communities to seek careers in medicine and to go back into those communities and serve.
Fugate mentors students like Long at Oklahoma State University's medical school in Tulsa. The facility is a leader in recruiting and training Native American students.
Here at OSU's Center for Health Sciences, students work on mannequins like these that are able to bleed and breathe. The mannequins are controlled by the students' instructors, and it allows them to get a hands-on experience before going out into the real world.
Student Brandon Posthook is a member of the Chickasaw tribe.
I grew up with a lot of, I guess you would call ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. You know, we have substance abuse in my family, we have overdoses, we have pretty severe mental illnesses, and so those are things that are kind of dear to me and are close to me, and so those are one of the things that I really would like to address.
Once he graduates, he hopes to treat other Native Americans, something he never saw as a child.
As a kid, you know, we would go to the hospital and never seen one native-looking doctor, and so it was kind of like, for me, it made me think that natives didn't become doctors because I didn't see any.
An hour's drive from the medical school campus, a new facility would bring this kind of training directly to Indian country. This day, leaders of Cherokee Nation have gathered for a grand opening of the largest tribal outpatient health facility in the U.S. But just down the road, an even bigger accomplishment. Construction is underway on the new branch of OSU's College of Osteopathic Medicine.
Is a great opportunity to increase that pipeline of physicians right here. I mean, we know statistically that a med student will practice within about 100 miles of where she goes to medical school. And so what that means is we put those statistics in our favor by creating a medical school in this unique environment.
The new campus is a dream come true for these students, Native kids who are a part of a high school club for those interested in careers in medicine.
A lot of us want to stay where our culture is at, and there's not very many schools around us, like in Tahlequah, obviously this is the first one, but a lot of us have to go out to search for what we want.
The goal is to enroll up to 50 students in the first class and hopefully inspire more Native Americans to pursue medicine, something many have long seen as out of reach.
A young person today can realistically say, I want to be a doctor and I want to take care of my people, but I want to do it in the Cherokee Nation. They can do that now.
The Oklahoma effort is one others could model. Arizona officials are tackling this disparity. One recent grant will help bring Navajo students to the University of Arizona to study neurosciences. In the newsroom, Tyann Marshburn, Cronkite News.
The Arizona Department of Health Services weekly report spells bad news for Arizonans hoping to avoid the flu this season. Data from DHS shows a 351% increase in flu cases across the state from last year. 2,377 flu cases have been reported since the start of this flu season, according to authorities. And 5 to 20% of Arizonans get the flu each year. Doctors say the best way to prevent getting the flu is by getting the flu shot.
Numbers show certain areas of the valley have particularly high levels of air pollution, and some families are saying they're having breathing problems.
It's something one local organization is looking to alleviate. Cronkite News reporter Frankie McLister tells us more. Frankie?
Yeah, communities of color are affected the most, and now activists want them to be informed so that they can breathe easier and cleaner.
Living here in South Phoenix, it's so much different than living in a wealthier area. Here in this community, we don't have trees, we don't have clean transportation.
In all these factors, they add up to dirty air Colomba Sant says is affecting her young daughter's health. It got so bad, the little girl began wheezing just after spending a few hours outside in the summer.
I took her to the doctor and they told me that it was because of air pollution.
Air pollution is affecting certain areas of the valley more than others, which is why Chispa Arizona, a grassroots organization which focuses on what it calls climate justice, has an initiative geared towards informing the public.
Get rid of fossil fuels.
Fossil fuels are what causes carbon emissions, and carbon emissions are going up and up and up.
PM10.
Dr. Darshan Karwa is an assistant professor at ASU's School of Innovation and Society. His research, which uses data from the Environmental Protection Agency, shows how communities of color are disproportionately affected by polluted air.
So we care about particulate matter and ozone, and because they affect our ability to breathe well.
And activists are demanding local authorities put more effort and resources into reducing the higher levels of air pollution in certain areas. For its part, the Maricopa County Air Quality Department says, quote, while smoke concentrations can be high in neighborhoods all over the valley, the smoke tends to travel and settle in the lower elevations of the south and southwestern portions of the city during the evening. And officials with the department also added that while air pollution has declined over the decades, clean air standards have yet to be met. And while it's uncertain if that will ever happen, parents like Sant say it's not fair their children are suffering more, simply just because of the zip code that they live in.
It becomes an environmental injustice because they have to move to one of those wealthier areas, and children do not deserve that.
And the data shows that the western and southern portions of Phoenix are hit hardest when it comes to dirty air pollution. In Phoenix downtown, Frankie McLister for Cronkite News.
Thank you, Frankie. Mackenzie, I don't know about you, but I've been loving the weather that we've been getting lately.
Yeah, I've had to bring a light jacket with me every day this week, but I'm not really mad about it.
Yeah, I mean, it may be a little cold, but I don't mind it. Let's see what's going to be going on this week with Annika Abbott in the Cronkite Weather Center. What do we have this week, Annika?
If you are liking that light jacket that you're carrying around, you're going to like the rest of this week because temperatures are a little bit lower. We've got 69 degrees in Phoenix right now. Up north, Flagstaff 42, Page 52, Grand Canyon 40 degrees. If you're up there, you're going to need a heavier jacket than what you're carrying here. Across the nation, we are in pretty good shape here in Arizona because up north, it is quite cool. We've got 33 degrees in Rapid City, 31 in Billings. That's below freezing. I would not want to be there right now. I might want to be more in Florida. We've got 69 degrees in Miami. Looking at the temperatures tomorrow, it is about the same. It's got 73 degrees in Phoenix, so a little bit warmer. And then, of course, there are some great events going on. First Friday, as usual, going on tomorrow, the Home Alone in Concert series with the Phoenix Symphony. That's a great iconic John Williams score. And then the Tempe Fall Festival of the Arts, which is one of the top 20 arts festivals in the nation. For the weather, when you go to those events, it's going to be pretty warm. 71 degrees Saturday, 68 Sunday. Some clouds throughout the week. The only rain day we have right now is Monday. I'm Annika Abbott in the Cronkite News Weather Center.
Thank you, Annika. ASU has dominated many sports over the years. After the break, we'll introduce you to the Sun Devils women's triathlon team and show you how the reigning champs are making moves to bring the sport to more universities.
The weather around Phoenix is just beautiful today. Let's take a look at the weather around the valley.
Thank you for joining us for the special edition of Cronkite News.
Here are the top stories that we're tracking today at noon.
Some of the best players for their program.
On the next Arizona Horizon, an update on the House Judiciary Committee impeachment hearings, and a member of the State Board of Regents says a free university education may not be such a great idea. On the next Arizona Horizon.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, the legal debate for and against impeaching President Trump. Coming up after Cronkite News and Arizona Horizon on Arizona PBS.
Arizona State's women's triathlon program is dominant, winning national championship after national championship.
It's a dominance they hope will continue, and as Madison Carter reports, ASU is working with USA Triathlon to earn a permanent stay for the sport with the NCAA.
Arizona State recently won its 4th consecutive triathlon national championship in its 4th year competing in the sport. A national championship is what every and any team's goal is, but for ASU Triathlon, it's much deeper than raising a trophy. It's about triathlon's future as a permanent NCAA sport.
We really feel, being
you know, one of the larger schools. It's sort of our duty, our responsibility to help promote the sport.
In 2015, the USA Triathlon Foundation awarded Arizona State and 7 other schools with the inaugural Women's Triathlon Emerging Sport Grant. It provided nearly $500,000 across 8 programs to get the wheels turning for triathlon at the collegiate level and put Arizona State at the center of trying to establish triathlon as a permanent NCAA sport.
That's been anything from going to conferences to present to, you know, getting on the phone with the school. We've actually have had schools come and visit us for, you know, half a day, showing them, you know, how we have everything set up, like showing them the facilities.
For triathlon to earn a long-term slot with the NCAA, the sport needs at least 40 D1 and D2 level schools to participate. That count currently sits at 34 programs according to USA Triathlon, who is actively recruiting athletes and schools to jump into the triathlon waters with them.
We're also reaching out to athletes, triathletes, single sport athletes in swim, bike, run, and other sports to say, hey, have you thought about maybe NCAA for you in a sport that has not been around that long at the collegiate level?
Triathlon currently sits 6 programs from the finish line. Yount says once they reach the 36 to 37 mark, the process will move even faster.
We believe, we are hopeful anyway, that come next year, this time, we will be at 40, and the process for getting NCAA to move it to the next stage will have started.
Once we make that mark, it just validates everything that we know, okay, we're here, we arrived, we're on the path, so it's really exciting.
And that's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks so much for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.